It's time for the long review of the McLaren 720S. We'll go into the real nitty-gritty details of the 720S, really look at why is this such a fantastic car, and why is it worth every penny that you pay for it. Again, this McLaren 720S was lent to us by McLaren of San Francisco, by Navin Indigavala, and we're really grateful so that we can take a look at just how amazing this vehicle is and really look around the vehicle and inside the vehicle. So let's start with some specs. Now, if you did see the short review, some of this will be repeat, but don't worry, there's a lot of new information in this video. So this car, 710 horsepower. So you ask, why is it named the 720S? And it's named the 720S because it actually has 720 horsepower, or horse strength as it's called, in the European system. By German system called PS, it has 720 PS, which is the equivalent of 710 horsepower, but that's where the name 720 comes from. Other specs about the car, it's got 570 pound-feet of torque. So that's plenty of torque to really pick you up from a start, and that's what gets you the amazing 0 to 60 times of 2.7 seconds. It adds the McLaren 720S into that elite group of vehicles that hit 60 in under 3 seconds. There's not a lot of them, and a car that you can get at this price that hits such an insane speed at such an insanely small time is definitely worth every penny. Other stuff about this car, in fact, let's talk about the price. It starts at only $285,000. Now, that's incredibly cheap for this car. For a car that hits 60 in under 3 seconds, for a car you can take around the track, and it's comparable to times that Lamborghini Huracan Performante set down, Lamborghini Aventador set down. It's got times that are comparable to the Ferrari 488. It's got times comparable to really any exotic vehicle. And even the times that McLaren provides for this, say the 0 to 60 time, that's incredibly conservative. There are people who have taken this car and they've done 60 in around 2.5 seconds. That's something that you can't say about a lot of cars, and that's what really makes this car super special. Let's talk about some other stuff about this car, especially the front end of the vehicle. The front end of the vehicle is something unlike really any other car because of the headlights especially. The headlights actually have air intakes right around them, so it takes in air from pretty much everywhere in the front end, from the headlights to the front splitter to up on the hood. So there's air intakes everywhere which go in to cool the brakes, cool the engine, and just basic air to help the air move around the vehicle. Other stuff about this car, so in the rear there's the brake lights, of course. And the brake lights for a car like this, you'd think that they would be huge. Really stuff that scream, you know, it's a McLaren, it's aggressive. But it's quite the opposite. It's small little strips of brake lights. Let's talk about getting into the car. Getting into the car, of course, it's something that you do daily. But it's unlike any other car, and that starts right here from the door. So let's take a look at the key first of all. The key is quite a simple key. You click the McLaren logo twice, the car unlocks, and there's a button right here which you push and pull up. The car has got its butterfly doors, and what really makes these doors unique is that the doors actually raise part of the roof along with the whole door. What that does is, first, it looks really cool since there's a window right there, and second, it makes getting into the car really easy. In fact, you can get in and then raise your body down into the seat because you don't have to worry about knocking your head on something. It really makes for a graceful entry and exit to the vehicle. And another thing is that once you raise the door, you really realize how complex this door is. The door's got air intakes everywhere. There's an air intake over here. There's an air intake over here, and that's air that's coming from the wheels. This is air that's coming up from the hood, and it's going right back here. And if we close this door, the passageway here and into the engine. So this design is something that McLaren has done completely different in the 720S. If you look at the 570S or the 650S or really any other vehicle except for the Senna, they've got this big carbon plate over here, and the air intake is very visible. Many people criticize that because they didn't think it looked so good. But when McLaren released this, everyone pretty much praised this because It's something that's completely hidden. It's something that's very clean, and it's something that, you know, you don't realize, but you know it's there, which is really the most beautiful part about it. So let's hop right into the interior of this vehicle and look at some of the stuff that really makes this a 720S from the inside of the car. So now we're here on the inside of the McLaren 720S, and there's a lot that needs to be talked about here. In fact, there's so many things, even more than the exterior of the vehicle. And a lot of this stuff was mentioned in the last two videos, but don't worry, there's still a lot of new stuff in this video. So let's start with the thing that's right in front of us, and that's the gauge cluster. The gauge cluster actually comes up and it comes down based on what driving mode that you're in. So when you need to see just the bare minimum information, the tachometer and your speed, then you can bring it down for track mode. Or if you're in comfort, you're just going around the city, you can bring it up and that's your comfort mode, which shows you, you know, all sorts of information. But then you think, you know, you're on the track, and what happens if you know, you run out of brake pads, or if you have an engine warning light? What happens since the small display can't show you all your warning lights? McLaren thought of that, and there are two separate displays down here which are specialized only for warning lights, and those are always mounted there and they're always showing that information. So McLaren really thought about everything that you need to see in this vehicle. Let's go on to the center console here, and there's a few things that need to get talked about here. I think namely, my favorite is that the suspension and the powertrain are controlled differently. In fact, in the McLaren, you can set your powertrain into track mode and leave your suspension in comfort mode. So say you're going around the city and you're still speed bumps, there's still potholes, so you want to be in comfort mode, but you really want that fast 0 to 60, you can set your powertrain into track mode. And that's something that really no other car does, and only McLaren does that. You can see that in the 720S, you can see that in the 570S, you can see that in really any McLaren vehicle, and that's something that really makes this car so different and really makes this car a whole lot more fun to drive. And other stuff here in the center console is that actually in climate control, what's really unique is that the guy actually wears a helmet. McLaren knows its customers for this vehicle, and they know that they're going to be wearing a helmet and they're probably going to be on the track. So the climate control guy actually wears a helmet in this vehicle. Other stuff about here in the center console is that the gear selector is also really unique. In fact, it's just 3 buttons that's so easy to use. You got your drive, neutral, and reverse. And it's something that you don't think much about, but when you actually use it, it's so much easier. It's just one little button that you push and you go, instead of like a big clunky lever that you need to move around. It makes it a whole lot easier on a daily basis. And the thing that I think is the most important about the 720S is the amount of storage room that they give you. In the 720S, you've got cup holders, you've got a net back here, you've got a parcel shelf back there, even with the strap, so you can really put anything without risking, you know, something falling, coming up to the front. You've even got door pockets here on the driver and the passenger side, and you have a huge trunk up in the front. And that just gives you so much room to really carry anything that you need on a daily basis. You could take this car to the grocery store and come back with the full car for a full week or month supply of food. Really, you don't need to worry about if this car can do your daily tasks, because I can assure you it can. I think one of my most favorite things about this car is the vents. The vents are so unique, and it's really cool to see how did McLaren think of this design. In fact, so you've got this circular vents across the front of the vehicle, and if you turn them, they close, and if you turn them again, they open, and it just keeps on going, right? That's just something neat, and then you can push it around, and it of course directs the air. But the triangle vent in the center, that's the thing that I find the craziest, and that's because they need a unique design to fit into a triangle area. They can't put in any other design. And how are you going to close the vent or something? So McLaren did something very McLaren, and in fact, if you push the vent, it closes, and if you push it again, it opens. It's just something that's unique, but it's nice to know that McLaren really thought of that, so that you get the full functionality and you don't really need to sacrifice on anything, because they found ways to make it work. That's pretty much it for the McLaren 720S. Now, thank you all so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button, since there's a lot of great content coming up. Once again, thank you so much to McLaren of San Francisco and Navin Indigovala for letting us use this car for the past 3 reviews. Now stay tuned since there's a lot of great content that's coming up in the next few weeks. Thanks for watching.